go.
Good morning. Good morning. Well, I've got a question to answer already. The question comes in from our friend Andy Darvell, who says, did I win the first comment today? You did by some considerable margin, Andy. For those of you who don't know, you can actually comment on our YouTube channel basically from about 24 hours before we start. And Andy Darvell was here, get this, at 10 past 8. 10 past 8, an hour and 50 minutes before we even started broadcasting. Good morning, Andy. And he was quickly followed by Mr. Dan Cullen as well, who was here at, when was he here? He was here at 9:50, so he was 10 minutes early, but welcome nonetheless. Gary Muirhead has just said, good morning, Mark. Good morning, guys. A happy 700th show. We'll come to that in just a second. Our friend Mick is here. Steve Williamson is here as well. Andy Hare has just said, is it Friday yet? Not quite. And Dan Cullen, is there a giveaway today? No, there's not a giveaway today, but we are, hopefully by the time we come back from Intermat, my bag will be brimming with goodies as well. Jim Turner's here and Mark Whiting is here as well. Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? I hope you're all well. How was your weekend? To be honest, I don't feel like I actually had one. Between my grandson's birthday, picking my daughter up from the airport, picking my father-in-law up from his latest round of dialysis, various chores around the house that I've been putting off for weeks, barely stopped on Saturday and Sunday. However, I did stop just long enough to write this week's column, which is called The 12 Labours of Demolition. If you're in our WhatsApp group, you would have already seen the link, so you can go and have a look there. If not, I'm going to post a link to it in the chat. Let me see. Right about now, there you are. And our friend Mick Norton is here, has just said, happy septucennial. It is. And we're coming on to that. Yeah, in addition to the dropping of a new column and the fact that this is the beginning of a brand new working week, which I'm sure we're all dead excited about, today is special for one other reason. $700 shows. Can hardly believe it myself. And I've been here for almost all of them. Funnily enough, I haven't actually been here for all of them. We did do a few when I wasn't live. But yes, Gary Muirhead has just said the broom cupboard has changed a lot. Yeah, I haven't, obviously. The beard's come and gone. The hats have changed. The glasses have changed. But, yeah, it's got more and more packed. As Steve Williamson has just said, gets more and more packed with stuff. Obviously, we started without the fancy lighting, without the fancy microphone, without the fancy camera, and without all of the backdrop, but over the period of 700 shows. Yeah, we pieced that all together. And that one there, that makes it, I think, and that is a gift from Gary Muirhead, for which I shall be eternally grateful. Our LinkedIn user has just popped up. I'm going to take a wild stab and guess that is probably Carly Northwood. It is. Good morning, Carly. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Always good to see you. Yes, is Demolition on the show today? No, she's not. We've got way more stuff to be worried about with that. And as Steve Williamson said, you look so young. Yeah, you can say that all you like, Steve, but I don't believe a word of it. Speaking of Steve, he is busily. He is off to Intermat way sooner than I am, but he is packing and organising, buying new stuff, talking to Fred. Yes, I was aware of that, and he's probably bought most of what he said, so you're going to be going armed to the teeth, one would imagine. He's also going for a new view, a neckband that holds the camera at chest height to get a better... better view. Looking forward to seeing that. That will be an interesting view. We've done chest mounts before, walking round shows, which is quite good. Always quite nice when you get a handshake in there as well, because you get a close-up of that. Mick Norton says, what do you consider the greatest singular achievement of your 700 shows? It would be nice to say, things like helping get our friend Footy back into work and, the money we've raised for charity and the giveaways. The absolute truth is just building a community. That is the greatest single achievement of this. Bearing in mind, we started with nothing. We started with no audience whatsoever. And over the period of 700 shows, we've gradually pulled people together. I mean, just as an aside, Garvin at Mostly Diggers has just popped up on Instagram. Wouldn't know Garvin had it not been for the Breakfast Show. We actually met in Germany, I think, for the first time. He was filming me while I was arsing around on an XCMG. But all of the people, I've met Dan Cullen, I've met Peter McKenna, obviously met Steve Williamson and Ed Butler and people like that. I'm planning to meet up with Gary and with Jim and people like that, and yourself as well, Mick. So yeah, that's our biggest achievement: the fact that we've brought a disparate bunch of people together under one weird umbrella. And there's our friend Wolfwelder. There's another one, all the way from the US of A. Would I have ever come across our friend Garrett from Wolfwelder 69? No, I wouldn't. Without all of this, these relationships wouldn't exist. So, yeah, very proud of that. Just so you know, I've done a very quick calculation, and assuming that I don't keel over between now and then, and assuming we're not bought out by Disney, and I live in hope, we should hit the 1,000 show mark sometime in the winter, 2025. Probably best not to hold your breath until then. Chris Forge just joined us. Morning, Chris. Oh! I've got to. I tell you what. Rather than me doing it, how about we do it for real? Thank you. Happy 700th episode. Good morning, by the way. Good morning to you as well. Steve Williamson says, every time I hear the intro music, it nearly makes me well up. Wow. What can I say? Think Fred had that tune on on with our first video of me and Ed. Felt so proud. Thank you both for doing what you do. Thank you very much indeed for that, Steve. Listen, it's been a mutual learning experience. Obviously, I know, you and I have spoken in face-to-face and offline as well, or online as well. But yeah, we learn from you as well. Looking forward to seeing what the neckband does. 1,000th show. Meet. You never know. You never know. Jim Turner says, you're spot on, Mark. It is a community. And although I've not met you or hardly anyone, any of you lot, I already felt like I know you and everyone else. Yeah. Things like, the fact that our friend Peter is missing a leg, the fact that Ken Hatcher eats pizza every Friday night, the fact that Dan Cullen collects hats, the fact that Steve Williamson got married last year, the fact that Gary Muirhead proposed to his wife at the top of the Eiffel Tower. I would know none of that without all of these shows and all of you people. So I am immensely grateful. Yes, I've been here for most of the 700, but I wouldn't have bothered had you not been here. So enough of the Mutual Appreciation Society. Shall we crack on? Because I think we probably should. Let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. Couple of quick comments here. We've had one from Mick. It's been a good 700 shows. Let's face it, mate, you've got people talking. Yes, mainly talking about how they're going to bury me. But yes, listen, I'll take all that on board. Andy Darvell also says, I had the pleasure of meeting you twice before the Breakfast Show even started. Good times. I'm hoping those times are not over, Andy. I'd love to come and see you on your new ride. 26th of this month, I think. He starts with AR Demolition on the Kiesel machine. Can't wait to see what you make of that. Would love to come and get a camera pointed at you guys to see what we can do with that as well. Gary Muirhead says, I still remember you saying this will only last a couple of weeks and we'll all go back to our day jobs. Yes, I did say that, which just goes to show. Well, it goes to show that nobody knew exactly what the pandemic was going to throw at us all, but it also goes to show that, frankly, I'm not that bright. And I think I've probably proven that ever since. Mick says, question of the day. Yes, a question of the day. We'll come back to that in just a moment. But we do have that small matter to attend to, which is our mystery machine. I reckon you're going to get this one fairly quickly. Whether you get the specific model remains to be seen. But here is our daily animation. So busy basking in the glory of our 700th show, I realise I've done this all in the wrong order. So let me do this bit first. It is Monday, the 15th of April. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, is this new electric dumper from Ausa Hot or not? I'll ask you that in just a moment. This machine may be small, but it is still a giant. Give a hand to Powerhand. And Messersi makes tracks for Intermat 2024. Plus, we're going to take a trip down a Parisienne memory lane with the mighty JCB. But before we get to all of that, mystery machine, which looks like this. There you are. That's what you've got to work with. You got any clues on that whatsoever? As I say, I'm expecting you to be able to nail it down fairly easily, but whether you get the specific model, and I am going to be fairly pedantic today, I do want a specific model to go with that. So if you've got any suggestions, any thoughts, any proposals on that, please let us know in the chat. While you're thinking about it, let me very, very quickly remind you of our question of the day, which is lurking over here. Yeah, we've already had a few answers on this. Would you prefer? Bearing in mind, I mean, Steve, I don't know if Steve is flying. I'm assuming he is. I'm not flying to Paris. I'm actually taking the train. But, assuming we're all going off on our holidays today or at some point this year, do you prefer, when you're booking, when you're on the EasyJet app and it offers you the option, do you go for a window, an aisle, or a middle seat? Are you one of those monsters that goes for middle? I can't imagine anyone would, but all of which is kind of wasted on me because I do most of my travelling with Fred now, and he prefers the window seat, which used to be my favourite, but it's all wasted anyway because I'm usually asleep before we've even taken off. But what about you? Do you prefer to watch out the window, keep an eye out for the arrival of the snacks? It's kind of what I do now. Or are you one of those monsters that likes the middle seat? Love to hear from you. Let us know in the chat, and we'll come back to that just after the show. I can tell you, we've already had some guesses on the mystery machine, which, as we know, looks like that. Jim Turner says, JCB 9-ton cabbed dumper. It is not. Steve Williamson says, it's a dozer. It is. Steve also says a Komatsu dozer. It's one of those too. Andy Darvell says Komatsu dozer. It is. Gary Muirhead says, is it a D41P? No, it is not. And Dan Cullen says, is it a Komatsu D65 dozer? It is not. Mark Whiting, Komatsu dozer. It is, but we need to be a bit more specific than that. And Mystery Machine Komatsu D61 says our friend Chris Ford. It is none of those things. Steve Williamson says, don't know the specs of dozers. Well, plenty of time to look them up. But well, just while we've got it on the screen, let's throw up a bit more. I think we've already nailed down exactly what it is. We're just looking for the very specific machine model. While you're mulling that over, let me take that away and hit you with a little bit of this. I'll be honest up front. I have a bit of a soft spot for the dumper manufacturer Ausa. For one thing, I like their products. For another, they're very friendly and helpful. I actually had an email from them just this morning. But way more importantly, they're also based in Barcelona, my favourite city in the world. So I'm always hopeful they'll invite me over for, a month or two. You never know. But as I said, they also make some very good dumpers. They have a new one out, and I would like your opinion on this. I'd like you to decide, to decipher, to discern. Do you believe this to be hot or not?
Ausa has launched its new electric dumper, the D101 AEA, which is the most compact model in its range and will serve to bolster its commitment to the energy transition and the decarbonization of the industrial sector. Let's check it out. The D101 AEA is an articulated dumper with a 1-ton payload and a high-tip skip, which is capable of lifting and tipping at a height of 1.6 meters. Its standout feature is its small size, as it is only 108 centimeters wide, which makes it a perfect machine for small municipal works. But there's more. Along with the D101 AEA, Ausa is also launching an even more radical model onto the market, the D101 AEA Compact, a model that shares the same platform and payload capacity, but has a total width of just 100 centimeters. This more compact size allows it to fit through the doors of buildings and homes, making it the ideal solution for indoor demolition work. It was made 8 centimeters smaller than the original model by fitting it with 12-inch wheels and adapting the side steps. The D101 AEA and D101 AEA Compact are equipped with a battery pack for maximum power of 17.3 kilowatts and torque of 130 newtons meter, allowing them to handle any terrain and match the performance of a diesel dumper. The lithium batteries have a capacity of 9.3 kilowatt hours and a range that can cover at least one full shift. When required, they can be charged from 20 to 80% in just 2 hours by plugging the vehicle directly into the 230-volt mains, or in just 1 hour if you have an external fast charger. Thanks to its small size, the D101 AEA is perfect for jobs in urban areas where there is very little room for maneuvering, such as ditch digging or basic landscaping work. They combine perfectly with mini diggers to work with agility and efficiency. Their electric power and off-road capability allow them to negotiate slopes of up to 34% and reach speeds of up to 14 kilometers per hour. Impressive figures for a machine of this size. To increase the safety of operators and their surroundings, the negative brake is automatically engaged when the dumper is set to neutral or the engine is switched off, bringing the wheels to a complete stop and preventing any unintentional movement of the machine. So, with the new Ausa D101 AEA and D101 AEA Compact, Ausa now offers a range of efficient and near-silent electric vehicles that give you more room to work in without any loss of power or performance.
So I asked the question, do you believe that to be hot or not? We've already had a couple of answers on that. Gary Muirhead said it's hot. Play, damn you, there you are. Gary Muirhead said it's hot. And then Dan Cullen said also it is hot, but then kind of took a bit of a step back. First of all, saying being electrical is concerning, and he then goes on to say, not a fan of electronic plant. Fair enough. Ed Butler has just joined us. Good morning, Ed. Thank you very much indeed for being here for our 700th show. And I can tell you, based on just 2 images, somebody in our midst has got exactly the right answer on our mystery machine. So let me have a very quick look. We had guesses from Gary Muirhead of a Komatsu D51PX. No. Chris Ford said Komatsu D71PXI. Nope. Andy Darvell said Komatsu D71. Nope. Komatsu D65 from Steve Williamson. No, it is not. Dan Cullen went for the, when I can get it, went for the D71 from Komatsu. It is not any of those things. However, a certain Mr. Muirhead has the absolutely on-the-money right answer when he said it is the Komatsu D155 AX. I don't even know what the AX stands for, but just to show you that Gary knows his dozers, and to show that he actually got exactly the right answer, there you are. Komatsu D155 AX-8, actually. That is precisely the model it is. Congratulations, Mr. Muirhead. How you got that from a piece of blade and a piece of roof, I will never, ever know. But you did, so congratulations. You have the admiration of your peers. Andy Darvell says that Komatsu is a big old lump. Yes, it most certainly is. Imagine taking that for a spin. You'd pretty much own the road, wouldn't you? I think you probably would. Yeah, keep those guesses. Oh, not the guesses. Keep the votes coming in. Do you believe the Ausa electric dumper to be hot or not? As it stands at the moment, we've got 2 votes for hot, so that is going forward to our grand final, which we will be doing at the very end of the year. You got any more thoughts on that? Please let us know. In the meantime, there's this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Tobrocco Giant. It's one of those companies I seem to see at international exhibitions all over the world, but whose products I rarely see in the wild. Has anyone ever seen or driven a Giant machine? Personally, I haven't, but if you have, let us know. We do have another of those companies that we generally see only at shows waiting in the wings for our regular Intermat slot. But first, have a look at this. Have you ever seen one of these in the wild? Sorry, I've just greatly amused. Dan Cullen, you make me smile every single day. He says, my next guess, I'd have beat Gary if I wasn't driving. Yes, of course you would. Of course you would, because we all knew that was the case, Komatsu D155 AX-8. Mick says, Mick Norton made a point. If a company has electric machines on site, who pays the cost of charging? Is it the principal contractors or the owner? I mean, I guess ultimately we're talking about a fuel here. So whoever pays for the fuel right now, plant hire, use the Bowser on site, so you make a charge for the fuel. I guess it's the same. I guess on some of the bigger sites, maybe the principal contractor might put in charging units and basically take that cost themselves. I actually don't know the answer to that. If anyone's got any thoughts, please let us know. Andy Darvell says, looks like the Ausa looks like a wheelbarrow on steroids. Very cool and very hot. Steve Williamson adds his voice to it, says hot, an affordable dumper that does the job. Not up there with a bit of more expensive brands, but good. I totally agree. Ed Butler says, I've used the Ditch Witch front skid steer loader, and that was an impressive bit of kit. Yeah, Ditch Witch obviously made their name on all things trenching, but yeah, they do other stuff as well. Dan Cullen says, not seen one in the UK. Never mind in the wild. They are here. Yeah, there are some here, but not at the moment. Stephen Morris just said on Instagram, how are you doing? I'm doing pretty damn fine today. Had no weekend, had no rest, had very little sleep last night, but 700 shows in, I'm feeling Feeling pretty damn good. Pedestrian on a skid steer loader. Oh, how we laughed when skid steers first appeared. Yes, not as hard as we laughed, I think, when the mini excavators first arrived. I genuinely wrote this. I really did. I saw at an SED, it wasn't a mini excavator, it was a micro excavator. It was probably about 750 kilos. And I wrote something very, very sarcastic about the only people that would ever buy one of those were those that were tending to their window boxes. Much the same as I said, there would only be 4 or 5 of these shows, and there were 700. Exactly the same thing. I know nothing. Nothing at all. Gary Muirhead, I'd like to see how much you would get charged for returning a piece of electric equipment that isn't fully charged. Yeah, I wonder if that's going to be the case. Are they going to be turning them around that quickly that you will be required to return them fully charged? I wouldn't be at all surprised. Ed Butler says if you run out of diesel, the amount of it would run out of diesel, the amount of shop runs you do, which relates back to something that I haven't actually shown you yet, which is where is it? There we are. Steve, I want one just for cutting about the shops in. And there's Ed Butler saying if he went to the shops as often as he normally does, he would need a lot of diesel. In my experience, the PC will always try to get the subbie to pay for everything, including charging facilities. I think you're probably right. I think ultimately it's going to vary from site to site. But I think once we start to see some rental companies, plant hire companies actually switching on, pardon the pun, switching on to electric, I would expect them to be delivering charging stations themselves so they can keep a very close eye on the charging process and the charging cost, obviously. And I would imagine that will be electronically linked to some sort of billing platform so that they can actually itemize how much juice has been used in the course of a day, week, month, whatever it might be. So I'm fairly sure they'll have thought of that. We already know that this technology exists with things like the Volvo Emma app that we've shown you before. So, yeah, it wouldn't be at all surprised if that were the case. Steve Williamson says, imagine letting the ground workers have these. There would be a constant stream of them going back and forth to the toilet, and one would probably take it to the shops. Yeah, you're probably right. Nigel Williams is here. Good morning, Mr. Williams. I've been talking to some principal contractors who want hydrogen fuel generators to charge electric plant. So hang on a minute, just to be absolutely clear here. A hydrogen generator which takes hydrogen, burns it effectively, or combusts it to turn it into electricity, to spit out electricity to charge an electric machine. So we're charging to charge. If anybody else can see any sense in that whatsoever, and particularly having dragged the hydrogen somewhere halfway around the world, I'm not seeing that as being particularly clean. Are you? Mick Norton says, Mark, got to love you and leave you. CITB Online Plant Operator Standards meeting. Not as much fun as your show, but nonetheless necessary. Way more necessary than this. Please tell them whatever operator standards, not good enough. Tell them that. You can tell them that from me. I'll sign a piece of paper if you want me to. But thank you very much indeed for being here anyway, Mick. Enjoy your meeting. I've got a meeting with it's an online meeting, but I've got a meeting with Komatsu in where are we? About 2 hours' time. Looking forward to it. Catching up with them before we get to Intermat. Now, should we have a bit of this? I think we probably should. It's that time. Just going to go over to Dan Cullen, who says, I'm really looking forward to meeting Mr. Darvelous, Stevie, Ed, Chris, Jim, Gary, Mick, and Footy, and Mick Norton, and Mr. Saunders in 2024. Who for Hillhead? Hillhead arranges a meeting point. I will certainly be there. I hope to see you all there. Steve says, run out of diesel here and it's all stopped till it comes. We've got 3 trucks a week delivering fuel for me, 2 3CX machines, a Hydrojig 30-ton Doosan, hybrid 25-ton Volvo, 2 Volvo ADTs, 3 little dumpers, and a 20-ton JCB. Would like the bill for that fuel? Yes, I wouldn't want to see the bill for that. But and I know I say this every time somebody mentions this, I realise, life happens and gets in the way, and I realise, there are roadworks and bad weather and general stuff. But in this day and age, we're talking about an industry that could very, very easily, it has the technology to become fully autonomous, and we do drone surveys and we can do ground penetrating radar, but we can't actually arrange for diesel to be in the right place at the right time in this day and age. Is that right? Really? Let's have a look. Steve says, I hate speaking. I hate having to speak to companies sometimes. Must be my anxiety. Yeah, listen, I don't. I've been doing it a long while, so I don't have a major issue with it. But I have to say, most of these meetings that are meetings for the sake of meetings, not a fan of those. There's nothing to do with anxiety. It's just, could we not just picked up the phone and had a chat? That would have done. I wonder if anyone has actually done a cost difference on a project from running diesel equipment and the charging cost from running a site full of electric diggers. It would be a very complicated bit of mathematics, but obviously, we're talking the cost of an electric machine. I think I was told is something like 1.7 to 1.8%, 1.7 to 1.8 times the cost of a diesel machine. So you're paying almost twice as much for the machine. So you really, really, really got to whittle down your fuel, your electric consumption, to get your buyback or your payback in a sensible amount of time. Nigel Williams says, I thought the same, but only in cases where no grid's available. It kind of made sense over a diesel generator. Yeah. It makes more sense than diesel generators. There was one on a site I was on, and it kicked out so much blue smoke. There was a constant haze around it. Well, there is that. Yeah, there is that. But you're basically you're charging a battery to charge a battery. That, to my mind, makes no real sense. Volvo, what are we saying about Volvo? Steve Williamson says, I asked Volvo this morning how long a 20-ton electric Volvo would last on a charge with GPS and tilt rotator. Let us know the answer when they come back to you. Can you imagine us lot turning up at Mick Norton's meeting? Forget Israel and Iran. That would be tin hat time for the CITP. Wouldn't it just? Yes, wouldn't it just? So, yes, should we press on? I think we probably should. Plenty more to get through. Powerhand. Yes, I said Powerhand. It's a name to me, at least, that sounds like a superpower possessed by one of the lesser superheroes. It may well be the case. I'm not an expert in superheroes or their powers, but Powerhand is also the name of a manufacturer, an attachment manufacturer to be precise, and they make stuff like this. Yeah, a lot of love for Powerhand. There's Gary Newhead. We used to use the Clack Powerhand log grabs on the railway tracks in Dumfries. Steve Williamson says Powerhand make great attachments. Not cheap, but you get what you pay for. Quality. Totally agree. And if you've never had the chance, go and have a look at their YouTube channel. They make some fantastic attachments specifically for car dismantling as well. I'm going to go back to the chat, which is that's the one I was looking for. We're go back to electric machines and how machines are charged. How are we charging? Diesel generators makes no sense. That would love to have an would you have to install a main cable off an existing cable? The more you think about this, the more I'm kind of leaning towards the JCB way of thinking. If we are going to go for hydrogen, surely hydrogen combustion makes more sense. You just fuel the one item, and there's no loss of power between generator and machine. There's none of that. There's no latency or anything like that. You basically bung some hydrogen up the back end of your hydrogen machine. The hydrogen combustion engine converts that into electric. You get no emissions, virtually no sound. Bob, as they say, Robert is your uncle. That makes perfect sense to me, that rather than charging a thing to charge a thing. I don't see it. I don't see how that makes any sense at all. If anybody's got any more thoughts on that, I'd love to hear from you. But we do need to crack along because I spent too long talking at the beginning of the show. So how about some of this?
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Before Intermat, and we'll come back to that in a minute, before Intermat, there was Expomat. It was a major construction equipment exhibition that took place right in the very heart of Paris. And before JCB unveiled its X series of excavators, the company had the 800 series. So we're going to combine the two. We're going to take a trip down memory lane to look at both the exhibition of the past and the excavators of the past. Let me just drag this off my hard drive, and I will show it to you forthwith, if not sooner. It looks like, when I can find it, looks like this.
Paris, 1974. JCB France takes the opportunity of demonstrating the range of JCB construction machines to the crowds of onlookers at the Expomat fair. Besides the excavator loader range, JCB also showed their wheeled loading shovels with revolutionary double axis articulation, the design award-winning crawler loading shovel, and the 800 series crawler excavators. Drawing from long experience in the design of hydraulic excavators, the JCB research engineers and designers were given 7 main objectives when designing the 800 series hydraulic excavators. Right from the first line drawn, the designer's aim was to produce machines with superior performance, reliability, and versatility. In addition, high priority was given to safety, operator comfort, serviceability, and to the care of the environment. The advanced hydraulic system in the JCB 800 series crawler excavator allows all these objectives to be met. The undercarriage had to be robust and rigid. A cruciform shape was finally chosen, as this design best resists shocks and can absorb the most severe working loads. JCB also specified complete protection for all undercarriage components, and so all pipes, hoses and hydraulic components were concealed, and thick covers were fitted under the cab and slew turret. Besides rugged strength and durability, JCB also wanted the maximum output from their excavators. The machine had to have high power available when necessary, but also be fast when necessary. The solution chosen was clever but simple. It is the variable flow hydraulic system, which gives the best match of speed and power for the job in hand. In difficult terrain or hard digging, you need maximum power. On the other hand, in easy ground or during the dumping of a load, you need to move quickly and return the excavator speedily to its digging position. To speed up cycle times, slewing of the excavator is always the preferred service over the others. This results in predictable slew performance and therefore excellent control. It also means that the slew and other services can be operated simultaneously for economy of movement and therefore reduced cycle times. For maximum utilization and versatility, it is necessary to be able to adapt the excavators to the particular conditions of each work site. For example, the nature of the ground or the depth of dig required. For this reason, the 800 series have multi-position booms and dippers fitted as standard, and there is a wide range of specialist booms, dippers, buckets and attachments. There is also a choice of bucket rollback angle, which ensures that a full bucket load is retained, whatever the material. To reduce the level of sound and pollution, JCB have incorporated their hush flow exhaust system, which allows the mixing of exhaust gases with the engine cooling air. Simple and easy two-lever controls are used to operate the four main excavator services. The cab is spacious and very well ventilated. Large areas of window and low body styling allow the operator exceptional all-round visibility, even to the rear, and the use of soundproofing material and the mounting of the cab on rubber pads cuts down noise levels and eliminates vibration. In order to reduce downtime, JCB have paid particular attention to the protection of pipework, hoses and other components. Aiming also for standardization, there is a great deal of commonization of components across the range. This same standardization is found with the rams of any one model. The diameters are identical. Furthermore, 3 out of 4 are even interchangeable. In order to simplify maintenance, large opening canopies allow easy access to the air and oil filters on one side and to the engine components on the other side. The huge 106 imperial gallon fuel tank ensures working for up to 5 days before refueling is necessary. Always aiming for efficiency, access to the main hydraulic components of the machine has been greatly simplified by a tilting cab, which can be moved by one person. Positive hydraulic flow division is incorporated in the tracking circuit to ensure equal flow to each track, whatever obstacles or ground conditions are met. With this feature, excellent maneuverability and contra-rotation are achieved. It is also sometimes necessary to be able to climb very steep gradients. These machines can go up a 77% slope or better. Efficiency comes from good design. By any standards, this range of machines meets the demanding objectives with which the designers were faced. Good design to give performance and versatility, and good design with relative simplicity, which at the end of the day spells reliability.
Yeah, I actually attended a couple of Intermat exhibitions way back in the late 1980s, and very good they were indeed. I can only hope that this year's Intermat will be just as good, and I'm sure it will. Lots of love for the JCBs there, and I want to go back on a few bits and pieces here. One of the things that I noticed on that low body I realised it didn't have a boxing ring, before anyone gets all up in arms about the health and safety police. But wasn't that lovely and accessible? One step up and you've got complete access. So, Steve Williamson says, I was looking at pictures of this last night. JCB stand was impressive back then. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they've still got their manufacturing plant in France, but JCB used to be a very, very big deal in France. Nigel Williams says, I want to go back to D6Ds and D8Ks, mechanical pumps on hand throttles. Okay. Jim Turner loves the old JCB footage. Yeah, they've got an absolute mine of this stuff. Gary Muirhead, showing his age, says, I started on a JCB 814 Super Power Slide back in the day. Ed Butler, plenty of mullets and moustaches at that show. Yes, I'm sure there'll be a few at this year's one, actually. Ed Butler also says, my father had two 814 Supers. Proper job. And yes, I wish I had a voice like the guy that was doing the narration on that. I can't do posh. I come from the wrong part of London. I just can't do posh. Gary Muirhead says you could read a book, War and Peace, even by the time it took to track across the site. It was that slow. It wasn't fast. I will certainly agree with that. Steve Williamson says power settings in new machines have about 20 rev options. Old days, one setting and that was full power, and you could judge it just by the black smoke. It's all true. All very true. Steve also says, look at all the room in the engine and can be fixed by the operator. Yeah, you think about that now. It's all diagnostics by computer now. None of that old tosh. Great video, says Dan Cullen, a great tune. I'm not so sure about the tune. The tune I thought was, I don't know, bit naff, but I've certainly enjoyed the video. The young operators don't realise with the kit today how good they've got it. Bluetooth, aircon, heated seats, the list goes on, and they still moan. Yes, and I'm sure the operators on the old 800 series were moaning just as much, even though they were still working alongside people that had operated rope shovels. Ed Butler says, I was at the JCB Dig Day in Somerset this weekend. I was quite impressed by the 245 and the 140X. Lovely machines to operate. And I got a shot on the dual drive 4CX. Impressive. Yeah, the 4CX dual drive, I have to say, big fan of that. There's just one thing about this, and I don't mean this, I'm not being disparaging about JCB, but this idea of a dual drive, so you can operate or you can drive facing either direction. How has it taken this long to think of that? I know we've got swivel seats and everything else, and I realise you face one way to drive and you face the other way to dig, but why has it taken so long to think of that? It when I saw it, it was like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. Just a staggered it took that long. Steve Williamson says, my very first digger was a JS 160, no heater, had to fill a bottle with hot water to keep warm. Well, you are in the wilds of Scotland, sir. You wouldn't have that down here because, obviously we have, it's so hot down south, we have mirages just at the end of my road. We don't have those things. Jim Turner says, had this conversation with a fellow that came out from JCB. We don't need all these settings. We can just turn the revs down as and when needed. I do wonder, and I know I've voiced this opinion before, but I do wonder just how much of the tech that has been built into machines now is built in because we can, not because we need to. Do we really need all of that? Particularly when you think, 80-85% of the UK's construction equipment is in rental. Do rental really want all of the fancy bells and whistles, or would they be quite happy with a stripped down bare bones machine that they could rent at a sensible rate? Always thought that. Steve Williamson, my God, my same thought. I always thought this years ago. Yeah. Maybe it was one of those things. The dual drive on a backhoe loader. Maybe it was one of those things. It was so obvious. It was too obvious. It was right there in front of everybody's face. And it took somebody to take a step back and go, I've got a cunning plan. Yeah, I wonder. And Dan Cullen says, well, that's an old video. Yeah, 1974, 50 years ago. 50 years ago. Can you believe it? And about, let me think, about 13 years before I started in the business, give or take. As I say, I did a couple of expo mats over in Paris. Superb. Hoodig done it like 20 years ago. UK behind again. Whoa, steady. Remember who invented the backhoe loader? It may or may not have been JCB. I'll leave you to discuss that while I do something else, because we're going to stay in France, but we're going to do something a little more modern now. Yeah, Mr. Williamson is counting down the days. He's got 3 more days, and then he's off to France. And I'll be following on not long behind him. Let's have a look. And Nigel Williams says, much of the gadgetry is for the sake of using it on the machines. Start, stop, and just dial a lever or set your engine speed to suit yourself. We've had this discussion before. You've got all of those mod cons on your machine, but a lot of people just dial it in once, and that's exactly how it stays for the entire time they're operating it. That's my belief anyway. Yes, I said earlier in the show that there are certain brands that seem to pop up at shows, make a great impression, and then I don't see them again until the next major exhibition rolls around. And maybe they're just content with supplying their domestic market. Maybe they have no representation here in the UK. And maybe, just maybe, I'm just not looking hard enough. But here comes another of those companies, and this is Messersi. If anyone from Messersi is watching, buongiorno, which I think actually answers the question from Gary Muirhead. Where do they come from? They're Italian. Yes, which is why they look as slick and as stylish as they do. They're probably going to do a fine line in shoes without socks and look very cool doing it. I don't know where I'm going with that. Everybody, that just about wraps up the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro for the 700th time. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like, which I'm also doing for the 700th time. I'm going to go over to the chat to see what you're all saying today. If you can't stick around for that, then please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. I've said that 700 times now. 700. I hope to see you all again very, very soon. But if you do have the time and the inclination, do please stick around. Stick around, because I shall be back with the Craic immediately after this word from another Italian manufacturer, the fine folks at MB Crusher. Do I have faith in the music lasting the entire duration? Not really. It's been playing silly buggers of late, but yeah, we'll give it a go. I'm going to say good morning to Padma Rajput. I don't know what that means, but thank you very much indeed for being here, all the way from Facebook land. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. We go back to the very beginning of the chat, and when I say the beginning of the chat, I'm going so far back that the chat hadn't even begun. In fact, it would be another hour and 50 minutes before the chat started. There is Andy Darvell. Morning, morning, morning. Well, hello, 700th show. Have a great day, guys. And he posted that at 10 past 8 this morning. 10 past 8. And apparently he had been up for quite some time by that point. So good morning to Andy Darvell. Yeah, and yes, congratulations. You are our earliest ever participant. Dan Cullen, who is usually our earliest participant, says, morning, gentlemen, ladies, and filthy animals alike. Yes, quite right, too. Let's have a look. He's tuning in mainly via audio today, was our friend Dan, because he's driving an ADT at the moment. And I could prove it, because I've got a... There you are, that's what he said earlier on. And there's Andy Darvell again. I was at work in my machine from 7 waiting for lorries, so I thought I might as well try and get the first comment. Well, you most certainly did that by some considerable margin. Voice went a bit squeaky there. My box was a bit too tight this morning. And there's Gary Muirhead. Morning, Gary, saying, good morning, Mark. Good morning, guys. Happy 700th birthday. Happy 700th birthday. Yep, and there you are. That. And you can't quite see it, but there, that's from Gary Muirhead as well. Lots of the stuff in the background. Immensely grateful. Andy Darwell says, did I win first comment today? You most certainly did, sir. Yeah, well done. You don't have to start that early. There is no prize. In fact, if you'd have been here about 10 minutes earlier, even I wouldn't have been there at the time. Mick Saunders, or Mick Wright is here. Steve Williamson is here. Andy Hare, praying for Friday already. That's not a good sign, is it? When was that? 10:01 on a Monday morning, and he's praying for Friday already. Do we have a giveaway? I should have thought of that. I should have thought of a giveaway for our 700th show, shouldn't I? Yeah, I apologise. This thing's just thrown together. You know that by now. Apparently my music isn't looping, so it's not playing ball as it should do. That seems to have done it. Let's have a look. Dan Cullen says, battle on now, Andy. Oh, God, they're going to be here They're going to be here tonight, aren't they, for tomorrow's show? You can just see it now. Jim Turner's here. Mark Whiting is here. And Steve, is it Thursday yet? Thursday, I'm assuming, is his last day before he heads off sur le continent. Can you imagine what the poor French are going to make of his accent? Not a soul in the whole of Paris will understand a bloody word he says. Happy centennial. I'm assuming that's 700th. It sounds about right, but I've never heard that word before. Yes, my latest weekly column is called that. It's called The 12 Labours of Demolition. You can read it in the chat, or you can just go over to Demolition Insider and have a look there. Help yourselves if that's the way you're inclined. I didn't even see Ken Hatcher arrive. Good morning, Ken. Good morning, all. He's got the weather. I woke up this morning and we had blue skies. Then we had a bit of drizzle, and then the heavens opened and the weather started to come in sideways. Yeah. There is Steve Williamson. For all of those that aren't travelling, I can tell you he is packing and organising, buying new stuff, recommended by my son Fred. Now, on the subject of all things related to Intermat, if you are planning to go, I'm sure you've already tucked away all your plans and everything else. If you haven't, if you have a look on where you'll be able to find it. Oh yes, on Demolition Insider. Go to Demolition Insider. After today's column, there is actually an opportunity for you to win a free ticket to Intermat as well. So if you are last minute planning to jump on a train or a plane or an automobile and head on over to Paris to catch up with me and with Steve and with Fred and with Al Grierson and with Garvin and all of the people, you can do so free of charge. Just go grab yourself a ticket. There's a code for it. Knock yourself out. Love the black and white shot of you there, Mark. Yes, it's all Fred's handiwork, I'm afraid. I said to him, it'll be the 700th show. And he said, okay. I said, I don't want to do a video. And I said, he said to me, what would you like it to look like? I said, I don't know. You're the creative one. And then about, I don't know, 24 hours later, he came back and said, I hope you like this because I'm not doing anything else. So, yeah, that's what we got. The Hound is happy. The owner of the other bitch not so happy. He gets his leg over and some biddy starts screaming. I don't know, some people. At least it was only the dog. At least it wasn't you, Mick. You look so young. Yeah. 4 years. 4 years that has been, sort of. It's more like 3.5 years because we did, for those of you who don't know, we did about 80 odd live shows before we switched to the Breakfast Show, and some of them we were doing in the afternoon, some we were doing in the morning, some we were doing in the evening. And then I said, look, it's clear that we're not going back to work proper anytime soon, so we may as well just accept the fact that this is going to be our future for the time being. Let's do it on a regular basis. And I was literally sat here on a Friday night, and I remember distinctly saying to Fred, I'm going to do this at 10 o'clock every morning to coincide with the break time on most demolition and construction sites here in the UK, and I've got a name for it, and the name is the Breakfast Show. Not the breakfast show, but the break because of demolition. And he looked at me, he rolled his eyes, and then went back to what he was doing before. And here we are, 700 episodes later. Love how the wall got more packed with stuff. Yes, it really did. I mean, in actual fact, that there didn't exist for ages. These are sound-absorbing panels, so it was to try and treat the room a little bit, to take a bit of the noise out of the room, although since we updated the microphone, that's not so much of a problem at all. But, yeah, it's just... You can see these are my travels, all these lanyards that we've got there. My God, the broom cupboard has changed a lot. Yeah, well, I mean, the bookcase was not there. That there was not there. If you remember rightly, very early doors. Because there was a bit of a mess behind me, I actually had a pole across the background here, and we had a black curtain draped behind us, or us behind me, and I had a pink light shining up it to put a bit of a pop on it. Looked bloody awful. It looked like I was broadcasting live from a funeral parlour. But it seemed like a good idea at the time, but we've gradually honed, and even things like the microphone, just to make the things sound better, to look better and everything else. Big Machinery. Our friend Hugo's just joined us over on Instagram. If you're not following Big Machinery, you really should. He does some fantastic stuff. Looking forward to catching up with him. I'm assuming he will be at Intermat because he does all the shows. But Hugo, good morning. Thank you very much indeed for being here. There's Carl in Northwood saying, good morning, Mark. Happy 700th show. And it is a very happy 700th show. We will need to do something very, very different, I think, for our 1000th show. As I say, it's good 18 months away, or possibly even more than that. But yeah, 1800 or 1000 shows rather, that will be quite the landmark. So we'll need to do something with that. Let's have a look. Who else do we got? Mick Norton did ask that question, which I can't get to stay on the screen. Mark, what do you consider the greatest singular achievement of your 700 shows? Yeah, listen, I've already answered the question. We've raised money for charity. We've helped a few people back into work. We helped Footy get his cards back, and we've raised a lot of very interesting and important discussion points. We've discussed a lot of good topics. We've had some fantastic guests and all that. But the biggest single achievement is to bring together a disparate but like-minded bunch of people who meet up every day and basically talk about the industry in which we all work and the industry that we all love. I don't think anybody would actually turn up to this show on a regular basis unless they really, really loved it. You might tune in for, a bit of digger porn from time to time, but to turn up here every single day, which I know a lot of you guys do, that's only born. It's not because I'm particularly handsome or because I'm giving away £5 notes. It's because you have a love and a passion for the industry. And that, to be honest, I think that's one of those things that's got lost in translation with the new breed of journalists. Part of the journalist job is to hold up a mirror to the industry. And that's all we do, good, bad. If somebody launches a fantastic new machine, we will shout it from the rooftops. If there's a failing in the industry system that is making people unable to work or making it harder for them to work or whatever it might be, we'll reflect that as well. And thankfully, I didn't know it at the time, but thankfully there's plenty of people out there like yourselves who have kind of caught onto that and said, yeah, no, actually we are in full agreement with that. I'm not going to read it as such, but I am going to play the sound effect because I do have it. This is from Chris Ford. Yes, happy 700th episode. Good morning, by the way. Good morning to you, Chris. Any opportunity to use our our sound effects now that I can get them to work. I do have one in. I've got it in the background, which is this. That one's not working. I'll need to fix that. I've got one that sounds like crickets in the background. I'm really quite looking forward to using that for something at some point. Let's have a look. Where are we? Every time I hear the intro music, it nearly makes me well up. I think Fred had that tune on with our first video of me and Ed. Felt so proud, and thank you to you both for doing what you do best. I think that's one of the reflective mood today. One of the things I think that's been lost in translation, I guess, with the development of social media and all of the things that we're doing here, is there seems to be this belief that there's a limited and finite amount of work out there, of money out there, and exposure out there. You know, I've watched people, and including some people that I do like, and I consider them to be friends and everything else, but getting awfully bitter because somebody else has got something that they haven't got. You know, they've been invited to an event that they were, somebody's been invited and they weren't, and therefore they go online and make barbed comments. That's not the way it is. And genuinely, I mean, I didn't know Ed and I didn't know Steve, but we saw them at Kinsoffer. We knew Kinsoffer, obviously. Saw them at the Kinsoffer stand at Balmer. They were doing a fantastic job. They attracted a big crowd, and bearing in mind they were directly opposite Liebherr, which is a bit of a draw in itself. But they were drawing people to them and showing people, you know, tilt rotators and all the things. We just reflected that. You know, it wasn't these guys are on the up and up, we best keep on their best side. It was just these guys are doing a good job. Let's showcase that. I don't understand it going the other way. You know, you know, when you look at some of the people that and what they're doing online, you know, Connor the digger driver, Garvin over at Mostly Diggers, Big Machinery, Hugo over there, our friend Martin at Norwegian Earth Mover, they're all doing largely the same job as me. Good luck to them. Good luck. I mean, there's a whole world out there. I do remember discussing that with Martin. He was talking about the fact when I first met him that I think at the time he had about 10,000 followers on Instagram, and I think I was probably sat on about 100,000 at the time. And he said, "Oh, you know, very envious of your figures." And I said, "But you're primarily serving Norway. Norway isn't that big. You're huge. You're a massive creator." He's way past that now. I think 30,000 plus now. But he's not in competition with me. He does a different job to me. Steve Williamson does a different job to me. Peter Haddock does a different job to me. So why should I worry about what they're doing? They're not bothered at all. Steve Williamson says 1,000th show meet. Wouldn't it be nice? I mean, I'd like to meet up with all you guys before then. But wouldn't it be fantastic if we could actually arrange for the 1,000th show to be done live in a location, with rather than having you looking at this, actually be there sat beside of me, and just, you know, we'll just set up the camera and we'll all have a good old chinwag about the 1,000th show. I've got 18 months to plan that. See what I can do. Jim Turner says your spot market is a community, and although I've not met you or hardly anyone of you lot, I already feel like I know you, and everyone else, yeah, and do you know how weird it is? You know, I mean, I can finish work of an evening, you know, 5:30, 6 o'clock, and I sit down, and my wife will ask, you know, what was Gary up to today? How about Steve? When you seeing Steve next? What did Jim say? You know, it's not me taking it home. She's become part of it, and she watches it as well. And I regularly mention you guys in dispatches. When I was over at Steel Wrist, you know, part of our conversation was about Gary Muirhead. It just was, because Gary's a Steel Wrist fan and an advocate for them, and I was talking to Steel Wrist. Why would I not mention him? There was our friend Mick says, been a good 700 shows. Let's face it, you've got people talking. Yeah. Do you know, it's in some ways this show has kind of taken me back. I kind of lost my way as a journalist. I lost my way when I was doing the PR for the NFDC maybe a decade or so ago. Part of my job was to be very pally and friendly with all of the NFDC members. And I knew a lot of them already, so it wasn't particularly hard. And, you know, I knew a lot of them, respected a lot of them, liked a lot of them. But that was never what I set out to do or to be. And I know PR and journalism are two sides of the same coin, but the plan was never, oh, I must make lots of friends in this industry. That's not how journalism works. You know, so I have always needed the freedom to say, here's a thing that I think is good, I'm going to show it to you. But I also need the freedom to say, here's a thing that I think is bad or is wrong or unjust, and show that to you as well. And for a long while, I was kind of shackled with that, and I regret it. I mean, it was a naive rookie mistake. I don't worry about that now. I really don't. You know, so things like covering the CMA, we talked about the CITB earlier in the show, and stuff like that. I can just write what I like, when I like, about who I like, and I don't have to worry about upsetting people, because it doesn't matter. You know, it's what matters is actually the content of the story, content of the video, content of the article. So yes, it has been a good 700 shows, and we have got a lot of people talking, and a lot of it, I find this increasingly. I mean, I wasn't aware of this, but apparently there is a thing. I read a book about online writing, and one of the things that the guy recommended was, what did he call it? The feedback loop. So his idea was, you know, maybe on Twitter or Facebook or something, you put something out there. It's not complete, but you just basically fly a kite. You say, here's a thing that I'm thinking about. And then your audience comes back and says, well, actually, I think this, or I think that, or yes, we agree with you, or no, we completely disagree with you. Unbeknown to me, I've been doing it all along. And when you look through, I mean, let me just have a very, very quick look. This is misleading, actually, because there's podcasts on there as well. I mean, I've probably done, over on our Demolition Insider website, I reckon I've probably written 150, maybe 200 articles. I reckon half of those have stemmed from you rather than from me. You know, something that's been said on this show, something that somebody has sent me as an email, something that somebody has commented on a previous show. It's come from you, because you guys are actually there at the sharp end. You know, and I know our friend Mick is retired. Mick Norton's also largely retired. But you guys are literally living and breathing this. And just as an example, I don't know if you saw this on the WhatsApp group. In fact, I'm not even sure it was on the WhatsApp group. You know, we were talking last week and the week before about the difficulty of getting in and out of machines, particularly if you're getting on in years, particularly if you're a bit larger, maybe your knees are a bit shot, and all of those kind of things. Well, our friend Footy has been banging on about this, and he's urging me to go and speak to some of the major manufacturers about the fact that getting in and out of machines is not as easy as it should be. He went online last week, and I think he's bought it. I'm not entirely sure, but I think he's bought it. He found a ladder, and it's a ladder that basically is used for a child's trampoline. So I think it's like 3 or 4 steps. It probably stands about, I don't know, 4 foot high, something like that, maybe a little bit more, with a hook on the end of it. Now, two things there. First of all, fair play to him for going out and finding it. And if that helps him in and out of the machine, superb. But also, this is a digger driver who, for some considerable time, was struggling to get back in a digger because of the loss of cars and his dyslexia and everything else. But he's come up with an idea that he's better than a lot of manufacturers. That's why this show works. Nobody would ever have come up with that. Now, I mean, somebody like Steve, who's a mere lad, and, Ed Butler, a young guy as well, I'm sure they're hopping in and out of the machines with no trouble at all. But, if you are knocking on a bit, if your knees are a little bit shot, or your hips are a little bit shot, if you're in any way disabled, a 20, 30 pound trampoline ladder might actually allow you to work an awful lot more easily. What a fantastic idea. So hats off, Footy. I'm not sure I've seen him today, but hats off. Andy Darvell says, I had the pleasure of meeting you twice before the Breakfast show even started. Yeah, good times indeed. Yep. And I can remember it was first time was out with Kelpray on site where he was operating in High Reach. And then I met him in the yard at Messiah where he was, I can't remember what he was actually doing. I think prepping a machine, actually. But yeah, I've met Andy Darwell a couple of times, and I will be doing so again in the not too distant future. Love to come and get some film of the KMC Kiesel machine at some point. And while I'm there, what better way to do it than to do it with somebody that we all know and like? So Andy, when you've got yourself, I think you're going to a big job for AR Swindon, maybe, if that's the case, and if I can get the nod from the powers that be at AR, may well pay you a visit. We shall see. Question of the day was this, an hour and 16 minutes in. A question of the day was, do you prefer a window, aisle, or middle seat? I was always a window seat, despite the fact that I fall asleep before takeoff, but now Fred comes with me, I end up with the middle or the aisle. But let me know what you're thinking about that. Gary Muirhead, going way back to the very beginning, I still remember you saying this will only last a couple of weeks and go back to our day jobs. I did say that. I really did say that. What was I thinking? Mick says, not worried as long as it takes off and lands with everything in place. Yeah, that's not a bad way to look at it. See, it says, easy, window, aisle, always. Love gazing out the window, just what I do best. Best scenery was flying to Las Vegas, flying over Greenland, I think. The best one, I say this to anyone, and I'm sure there are fantastic airports where you sort of fly in low through the city and stuff like that. But Vegas, if you fly to Vegas at night, because you're flying over desert, the Mojave Desert, you can fly. I flew out of LAX and I think I had about 40 minutes in the air with just complete black. There's nothing. There's no roads. There's no lights. There's no nothing. And then the plane kind of banks to the left or the right, and there, literally from the ground up to the sky, there's this column of neon light. And Vegas is there. It's incredible. To this day, love flying into Vegas at night. Not too many guesses on our mystery machine today because Gary Muirhead got it very, very quickly. Jim Turner says, I'd rather be up front with the driver, but I'd say window seat. Middle seat is second, and aisle seat is terrible. You get knocked by every bugger going up and down the aisle. Yeah, I was on a flight coming back from... Where was I coming back from? Hamburg, I think it was, and I did my usual thing. I had an aisle seat, and I nodded off, and my head kind of went out into the aisle. Twice. The air steward, she hit me once with a hip and hit me a second time with a trolley in the back of the head. So thanks for that. Dan Cullen. No thanks necessary, but he says, I'd like to say a huge thank you, Mark, to meeting most of you from this show at Hillhead and Plantworks. Yeah, well, plenty more of those to come, I would say. Chris Ford on our question of the day says, got to be the window seat, haven't flown for a few years, even only to disturb everyone if I need to move. My father had a private pilot's license, and most Sundays we went for a half-hour sortie. Always wanted a pilot's license, not that I particularly want to fly, but just be able to get up and I'm going to pop somewhere. That'd be quite nice. There's Mick saying, just checking in. I was at a party Saturday night. It's about 30 odd demo workers, some with a few years in the game, most with over 20 years. Every single person said they are not renewing their cards and have had enough of this game. What the F is going on in this industry? I've had another one this morning. Somebody, first comment, I posted my weekly column over on LinkedIn, and literally the first comment was, I quit Demolition 7 years ago and have no regrets. What does that say? What does that actually say about the industry? The fact that people are delighted to be out, or they're in at the moment but have no intention of staying there. And that in the midst of an industry-wide, both demolition and construction, skill shortage. We can't actually retain the people we've got. Why is that? Ask the question. That's what we do. Why is that happening? It's not because we're we're paying people well and we're looking after them well and taking care of their welfare well and engaging with them and empowering them. Because if we did any of those things, we wouldn't be losing people at the rate that we are. The reason that we're losing people is because the industry has been allowed to become crap, absolute crap. And if you're working in an industry where you have a suicide rate that's almost 4 times the national average, and still the powers that be can't see that there's a bigger underlying problem, then my belief is the biggest underlying problem is with the powers that be. Do you not think? Gary Muirhead says, question of the day, window seat, because I'm a noisy bastard. I don't believe that. I'm sure you're sat there extolling the virtues of whatever airline you're on and telling people all about steel wrist and why you believe. Probably. Andy Dovell says, used to love the window seat as an aviation geek. Now having a family, I take the aisle seat so I can order the snacks and chat up the trolley dollies. Mrs. Darvell, are you aware of this? Are you aware that this is going on under your very nose? Andy Hare says, question day, cockpit, front left seat preferable. Alas, that was many years ago now, though, before I had kids and could afford it. Yeah. I've never done first class. I've been on private jets a couple of times. I've been on private helicopters a couple of times, and I've been in business class a number of times. Never done first class. Never done. If anybody out there would like to fly me somewhere first class, I don't even care where it is. I'm in. My old boss had one of those dumpers. Lots of electric things went wrong with it, but it was the older version. That's the Ausa dumper that we were showing off at the very beginning. Mick says, Ausa, small municipal works only. All the innovative electrical technology will be wasted on the average UK site, who are invariably without a charging facility to match. It's got to come though, right? But we did agree that it was hot. Gary Muirhead saying, I wouldn't mind a go on the D475 that's in Scotland right now. Is there a D475? Oh, that's a big old lump. As I say, in about an hour's time, I'm due to speak to the fine folks at Komatsu. Gary, I will ask the question. I think I already know the answer. I can't think they will be throwing the keys of a major dozer to any Tom, Dick or Gary, but you never know. They might. So a bit of a difference of opinion here on the Ausa dumper. First up was Steve Williamson saying, hot, an affordable dumper that does the job. Not up there with the better, more expensive brands, but good. Andy Darvell, on the other hand, says, looks like a wheelbarrow on steroids. But he also says, very cool and hot. I'll take that. Lots and lots and lots of stuff there. I know we did all of the charging thing and running to the shops in dumpers and what have you. That's an interesting one. And I will raise that question. I will be seeing a lot of manufacturers, a lot of whom will be running electric equipment. I will ask that question when I get to see a few of them over in France. I will ask that question. I will report back at some point in the future. Lots and lots of electrical stuff, lots of Powerhand stuff. Obviously, a lot of love for the JCB video. Yeah, lots and lots of that. I was at the JCB Dig Day in Somerset. I think that was the one that Ken Hatcher was planning to go to, but couldn't because he was working. Quite impressed. 245 and the 140X, lovely machines to operate. Got a shot on the dual drive 4CX, impressive. I totally agree. No idea what our friend who sounds Indian was on about, but they're welcome nonetheless. Where in Paris are you staying? I'm pretty much in the centre. We are staying literally next door to the Eiffel Tower. Literally next door. So if you are in the centre, or if you can see the Eiffel Tower, and let's be honest, you can see the Eiffel Tower from pretty much anywhere in Paris, head on over, and we'll hook up. Did you fall over, Mark? Not recently. No, not recently. Nigel Williams says, speaking of microphones, I've got a single mic that is broken and now discontinued, and I'm looking for a dual lapel mics for interviews. Any suggestions? Yes, my suggestion on all things audio would be DJI. That's what we use. The little clip-on ones. We've used wired mics. We've used wireless mics, and we've had issues with all of them. There is only one microphone with which we have never had an issue, and that is the DJI. I can't remember the actual model, but when I finish the show, I'll ask Fred and I'll drop you a line, Nigel. They're not cheap. But I mean, you are. I think it's not even right to call you semi-professional. You're very professional, and you will be astounded. I mean, I obviously I'm a listener to your podcast, but particularly when you're dealing with dual audio, to be able to record both yourself and the person opposite and know that your audio is going to be good, and it really does. Puts the bass in your voice, cuts out a lot of the background noise as well. They really are. I can't say they're faultless because, they are electronic, but they are very, very good. Steve says, had to go there. Julia is messaging me for more details on Intermat. Going to some show, a lot different to what I've done so far. Yeah, looking forward to seeing it. I was so lucky to get into demo driving, says Steve. And you know what? All the posts I don't do for likes and this and that. I do it. Probably can say the same for Ed. What we do is what we do because we love it. Yeah. What's the expression? I can never get this right, but it's something like if you're doing something you love, you never work a day in your life or something like that. And I mean, I realise Steve and Ed and others have got a day job, but just to share your love and your passion and your experience and your knowledge, to do that and not. You may not be looking for likes, you may not be looking for followers, but you've got plenty of them, and there's a reason for that. It's because what you do is very, very good. I think that's probably Carly Northwood saying, thought-provoking article today. Hopefully regeneration continues, even if only moderately, with local authorities. We shall see. Dan Collins says, well, exactly the same as it is here. We've had wind, rain, hail, and sunshine this morning. Yeah, what's the expression? I'm fairly sure the first person that ever said this to me was a Scot. Don't like the weather? Don't worry, it'll change in 10 minutes or words to that effect. Steve says, the thing I love about the show, there is no bullshit, no nonsense, and I've learned so much about new machines and tech because of this. Thank you, Steve. You speak what people are thinking, and then they're scared to bring it up in this day and age. Yeah, listen, I'm an old fart, aren't I? I really don't give a toss what people think. I literally, in the last couple of months, I've had all manner of grief online. Doesn't matter. You're tiny and insignificant, and you're over there, mainly in Worthing. I don't care. You mean nothing. Anthony Nicholson says, congratulations on 700 shows. Amazing work. Thank you, Anthony. It's much appreciated. Doesn't feel much like work. I've got to be honest. Just kind of pitch up, have a chat with my mates, and chatting, debating generates ideas and change, and that's what this show and other similar social media does. It should. Yes, it should. And I've said it before, I will say it again, and I think, going back to what Steve Williamson was saying, and I'll say the same for Ed and others, there is a reason that the word social comes first in social media. If you are social, if you turn up and have a chat and you interact and it's a two-way and, the audience is as much a part of what you're doing as you are, I'm not here to look at me with my microphone and my fancy sign. That's secondary, absolutely secondary. What is actually important is the conversations going on about things like the CITB, the CMA, trampoline ladders for your tracks and stuff. All of that is the stuff that matters, and I think a lot of that does get lost. Ed Butler says, I take my hat off to you and Fred. Your work is outstanding. The media coverage you've both done for us, can't thank you enough. Like Steve said, we do it because we enjoy and love what we do with a passion. Long may it continue. Yes, I will second that. Long, long, long may it continue. It has been an absolute pleasure. There are some people that I followed very early doors. I won't name any of them because what I'm about to say is not entirely positive. When I first started on Instagram, there was a channel called Demolition Daily. They had 20,000 followers when I had none. And I set myself that they're the target. That's what I want to. I want to catch them up, and we did that in about 6 months, and then we overtook them. I'm not even sure if the page exists anymore. But over that period of time, we've seen people come and we've seen them go. We've seen people that have been here for a long time, and they've gradually gone away. And I do find that quite sad. And particularly when those people have got bitter and twisted about the fact that newcomers have come in and have stolen their job and everything else. There is no stealing of their jobs. There is none of that. When you think about what we actually do, and I'll say the same for Steve, I'll say the same for Ed, and for Hugo and Martin and Garvin and people like that. When you think about Intermat next week, let's say there's a new Komatsu. I mean, I'm talking to Komatsu today, so let's say there's a brand new Komatsu machine. That's not a private thing. That's not something that only I will be allowed to cover. If Steve wants to take a half hour off from his duties with Kinsoffer and go and photograph it or film it or possibly even get a spin in it, he is perfectly at liberty to do so. And not only that, I will cover that brand new Komatsu machine from the perspective of a journalist with lots and lots and lots of experience, but not an operator. Steve Williamson, however, would cover that machine from an operator's point of view. So he will be very, very mindful of what's going on in the cab. Somebody else might come at that from a different perspective. And all of those perspectives are equally valuable. People watch me for kind of the journalistic thing. People watch Steve and Ed for the operator capabilities and their ability to understand and figure out how to get the best out of a machine. We do two different jobs. Peter Haddock, haven't seen Peter on this show for quite some time, but Peter runs his channel very much of, I'm Peter Haddock, I'm not an operator. Teach me things about this machine. Teach me so that I can teach my audience. That doesn't in any way, shape or form impinge on what I do, doesn't impinge on what Steve does or what Ed does, because we all do a different job. We can all share. Ed Butler says, questions 8 aisle seat for me, closer, easier to reach the beer trolley. Thought we might get a few of those. Mick is off. Stay safe, fellas. The Hound is giving me the orders. Catch you later, yes. Thank you very much indeed for being here, Mick, for our 700th. Is it just me? But when they put the reverse engine brake on some of the big planes, it's bloody awesome. I don't know. I'm asleep. Fast asleep. If people see something wrong on a video or pick on social media, why do they post a comment so everyone sees? Why not message direct? And maybe they will learn on why it's getting done certain ways. Jog on. Yeah, unfortunately, that is the nature. That is the nature of the beast. I mean, we had one, I'm sure I've told you this before, we filmed an MB Crusher bucket in operation at ConExpo. They had a pile of about, 15, 20 tons of material to go through, and they were basically crushing it and tipping it back on the pile, crushing it again, tipping it back on the pile. It was in a car park in Las Vegas. It wasn't out on site. They had no means of being able to do anything more. The number of comments I've had, you won't get very far if you keep tipping it back on the same pile. Where the hell are they supposed to tip it? It's at an exhibition, people. The thing with demo driving, there are thousands ready to jump in and take your place. So long may it continue. Yeah, there are, but I think what sets you, Steve, aside, and Ed as well, is the fact that you've not stood still. And that, I think that's been one of the failings of some of the people on kind of my side of the fence, is that they've stood still and they've not progressed. They did things in a certain way 5-10 years ago, and they're still doing it today. The very fact that Kinsoffer have invited you back, you've done a Balmy, you've done a ConExpo, you're doing an Intermat, but you're not, we'll just turn up and do the same thing again. You're looking at new ways to operate, new ways to film it, new ways to demonstrate exactly what Kinsoffer can do. all the time you're doing that, it's going to be very, very hard for somebody to take your place. Jim Turner says, I do a few issues with the 245, but basically a good tool. Steve Williamson says, hook me up, Mark. What was I hooking you up with? What was I hooking you up with? An intro to Komatsu, possibly. I don't know. Can't remember. But yes, listen, Steve, we will be seeing you at the show and possibly outside the show as well next week. So let's have a chat and let's see what we can do together, shall we? Yes, Komatsu. Okay. Yes, I will drop. I'll drop a good word in the chat with them in under an hour now. Yeah, I do need to go. It's been a long show, but you don't do your 700th show every day, do you? So that will do us for today. Hour and 36 minutes later. Everybody, please do go and have a very good day. Tomorrow will just be another show. More of the same, but no razzmatazz around 700. But we are going to put that 700 video up on YouTube. May already be there, actually, because I did schedule it. So give it a like if you like it. If not, it's okay. I don't mind. But I'll be back tomorrow. And there's Andy Dovell saying, have a fantastic day, guys. Andy, I fully intend to. I shall bask in the reflected glory of 700 consecutive shows. We'll just mention the fact that certain people get awfully excited about having produced 30 magazines. Okay. Everybody, have a fantastic day. See you all very, very soon. Till then, everybody, thanks for being here. And thanks for all the kind words on 700. See you soon.